The moment a once prominent royal prince truly understood that the grand gates of palace life had closed to him for good may well have been caught on camera, with insiders describing it as nothing short of seismic. For decades, Prince Andrew's name echoed through the highest corridors of royal influence. He wasn't a peripheral figure quietly attending ceremonies, he was central, moving through Buckingham Palace with confidence, authority, and a deep sense of belonging. Now, however, that same figure is said to be confronting a future that looks dramatically different. And that reality appears to have come into sharp focus during what was supposed to be a simple inspection of a modest farmhouse on the Sandringham estate. According to reports, the visit was anything but routine. Instead, it marked the exact moment Andrew was forced to face just how far his standing had fallen, with Marsh Farm, a small, secluded, and symbolically loaded property, being prepared as his new and unwelcome home. Sources claim he arrived expecting a straightforward update on renovations. The 5-bedroom farmhouse was being upgraded with modern interiors, enhanced security, and practical utilities. Nothing extraordinary on the surface. But the tone reportedly shifted the moment he stepped onto the property. Witnesses describe him as visibly unsettled, deeply frustrated, and clearly unhappy. One insider even compared his reaction to something close to a tantrum. While that description may be debated, the broader consensus across reports is clear. Andrew was profoundly shaken by what he saw. That reaction becomes easier to understand when considering what Marsh Farm represents. For years, royal correspondents from outlets like The Mirror, Daily Mail, and Hello magazine have tracked what appears to be a slow but steady process. Andrew's gradual removal from the center of royal life. This wasn't the result of one single decision or moment, but a series of incremental changes, titles stripped away, roles withdrawn, and now, even his residence being reassigned. This shift goes far beyond property, it's about power. To grasp the significance of this moment, you have to understand what Andrew's losing. For over 2 decades, he lived at Royal Lodge, a sprawling 30-room estate in Windsor Great Park. It wasn't just a home, it was a symbol. It represented his status as a senior royal, his proximity to influence, and his connection to the monarchy's inner workings. Royal Lodge kept him close to key events, important decisions, and the ever-present spotlight of royal life. It reinforced who he was. Marsh Farm, by contrast, tells a very different story. Set miles away from Sandringham House in the quiet countryside of Norfolk, it lacks the grandeur and significance of Royal Lodge. Even after renovations, a 5-bedroom farmhouse cannot compete with a 30-room estate tied to royal history. The contrast is striking, one property representing authority, the other suggesting withdrawal. Reports indicate the farmhouse had been unoccupied for years and required extensive work before becoming livable. During his visit, Andrew reportedly examined everything in detail: construction progress, room layouts, security features, even furnishings. On the surface, it looked like a typical property inspection. But beneath it all, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. This wasn't an upgrade, it was the closing chapter of an era. Adding to the narrative are details from the renovation itself. There were reports of pest control vehicles at the site, along with concerns about potential flooding due to the rural landscape. While these issues are not unusual for countryside homes, the contrast becomes stark when placed against Andrew's former life in a grand royal residence. It turns what might have been a quiet move into something far more dramatic, a visible downsizing with symbolic weight. For Andrew, this transition represents more than just a change of address. It's a repositioning. Royal commentator Robert Jobson has suggested that he appears deeply reluctant to accept it, even as the move progresses. Removal trucks have reportedly been seen at Royal Lodge, signaling that preparations are already underway. The timeline is tightening. According to reports, Andrew is expected to vacate the property before his next birthday, returning the keys to the Crown estate. That moment, if it unfolds as expected, carries heavy symbolism. A man who once embodied continuity within the monarchy, handing back the keys to a residence that defined his place within it. It could mark a definitive end to his influence. In the meantime, Andrew is reportedly set to stay temporarily at Wood Farm Cottage on the Sandringham estate, a much smaller home once used by Prince Philip during his retirement. Even this interim arrangement reinforces the broader narrative. This isn't just relocation, it's distance. Distance from Windsor, distance from London, distance from the center of royal life. Over recent years, Andrew's royal identity has been steadily dismantled. His military titles were removed, his honorary roles were revoked. The palace acknowledged serious lapses in judgment connected to the wider Epstein scandal, while expressing sympathy for victims. Though Andrew has denied wrongdoing, the consequences have reshaped his future entirely. His role as a working royal is effectively over, and now that reality is taking physical form in the shape of a farmhouse far from the spotlight. Even his personal life may be shifting alongside this change. For years, he continued living with Sarah Ferguson at Royal Lodge despite their divorce in 1996, an arrangement that long puzzled observers. But with this move, even that dynamic may be coming to an end. There are also persistent rumors that Andrew could eventually leave the UK altogether, with Bahrain frequently mentioned due to his long-standing connections there. If that were to happen, Marsh Farm might not be a final destination, but rather a temporary stop, a quiet place to retreat as the monarchy continues without him. Still, during that visit, standing in front of a modest farmhouse instead of the grand estate he once called home, Andrew reportedly came face to face with the scale of his transformation. His status has changed, his position has shifted, and regardless of how much of his reaction has been amplified by the press, one theme remains consistent. This is not a transition he appears ready to accept. Royal Lodge symbolized a time when he still held weight within the institution. Marsh Farm represents something else entirely. As the monarchy reshapes itself for a new era, one question lingers: will Andrew accept this quieter life on the margins, or will he continue searching for a way back into relevance? Because if royal history has shown anything, it's that these stories rarely end where you expect them to. What happened at Marsh Farm isn't just an isolated moment, it's the culmination of a process years in the making. A slow transformation in which a prince once at the center of power is being moved steadily outward, and every step of that process has sent a message of distance, control, and perhaps even containment. Royal Lodge once gave Andrew something invaluable: proximity. Being near Windsor meant staying within the monarchy's orbit, maintaining visibility and relevance. Marsh Farm changes that completely. It places him miles away, both physically and symbolically, from the institution's core. In royal life, geography matters. Where you live often determines how close you are to power. And Andrew's new location makes one thing unmistakably clear: he is no longer near the center. What makes this shift even more striking is how sharply it contrasts with the life he once led. There was a time when he represented the monarchy abroad, attended major events, and maintained connections across global networks. He was seen as one of the Queen's most prominent sons. But that image began to unravel following his association with Jeffrey Epstein, triggering intense scrutiny and public backlash. The consequences were swift. He stepped back from royal duties. Then came further losses: titles, roles, affiliations, all gradually stripped away. Now, the move to Marsh Farm stands as the clearest physical symbol of that decline. Many royal observers believe this was never just about housing, but part of a broader effort to reshape the monarchy into something leaner and more controlled. Removing Andrew from visible royal spaces became part of that strategy, executed not through dramatic announcements, but through quiet, deliberate steps, which may explain why his visit to Marsh Farm reportedly carried so much emotional weight, because it wasn't really about inspecting a house, it was about confronting a new reality. And still, the question remains: will he accept it, or will he continue looking for a path back? Because royal downfalls rarely end quietly. Sometimes they evolve, sometimes they reappear in unexpected ways, and often the most dramatic chapters come long after the story seems finished. For now, the image remains: a prince standing before a modest farmhouse, staring at a future far removed from the life he once knew. Whether Marsh Farm becomes a place of peace or a symbol of exile may ultimately depend on one final question: whether Prince Andrew is ready to accept that the monarchy he once stood at the heart of no longer has a place for him there.